Welcome to the Academy for Christian Thought. This is Ron Choong interviewing Professor Max Stackhouse of Princeton Theological Seminary. Professor Stackhouse, what are the implications of globalization for missiology, for missions today?
Well, globalization is not brand new.
Mm-hmm.
It has been going on since the first migrations and since at least the spread of Christianity under the Great Commission. The missions have taken place every time. Paul, for instance, took boats wherever he was going, just about when he went to what is now Turkey and into Rome and possibly to Spain. And we know he also traveled to Arabia, at least on one occasion.
Right.
This is a kind of mini globalization. I always, as a kid, wondered about this phrase in the scriptures about blessed are the feet. He had to walk a part of the time, wherever he was going. Blessed are the feet of those who carry the gospel of truth. Later on, when the clipper ships were invented and were sailing around and exploring the world, missionaries felt they had to take advantage to spread the gospel. And that was a globalizing phenomenon as well.
Yeah, certainly they use it in Asia. The missionaries from the Jesuits would use merchant ships to get around the world. Dutch East India Company, the English East India Company.
Indeed. And later on the steamships that went in all directions, and as soon as they got airplanes, why missionaries started flying. So if you're going to go to the ends of the earth, why you better go. Now we got globalization, which we're already close to people technologically and communications and so forth, and information flows and goods flows. And I think there's a new burst of energetic missiology. But while we went to deliver a message, we missionaries have gone in the past to deliver a message to those who didn't have them. There are few places on earth that don't have already a good start on it. So I think we ought to talk about supporting the missionary processes that are already in place. The missionary people who are missionizing their own cultural and societal and linguistic groups, they know how to speak in ways that I can't learn anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a last point. The idea that missions is basically cultural imperialism is only half suggestive and not even half true. There's no doubt about it that there were imperialistic elements in the cultural transport that the missionaries took with them in some regards, but that neglects the fact that people didn't always receive everything the missionaries sent. They selectively appropriated it, and they selectively appropriated the gospel and internalized it and made it their own, and they rejected the imperialism, and that's why you had all the liberation movements spawned by the children of missionary schools against the colonial masters. And they corrected their teachers in this. It's another one of those historical developments that mean that we can correct pieces of the past that we're not proud of.
Great. Now you mentioned earlier on to me that if you were to give a message to theologians and missionaries today, especially in Asia where we're interested in, you mentioned that economics is not autonomous. It is not sovereign, but it's dependent. Could you expand on that?
It's not autonomous. It's influenced by the social, cultural, and ethical patterns that people that it takes place in. And I would say if you have Christians in places like China, where it's growing rapidly, and in other parts of Asia and Southeast Asia, one of the things to do is to get involved in globalization process and recognize that God wants you to work in your fields, in your vocations, and influence precisely there the patterns of dependency, the patterns of authority, the patterns of human relationships, so that the gospel is spread through your profession in the way it operates in the globalizing phenomenon. I can't see any force on earth that's ready to stop the globalization process. I can see forces that flow from the gospel that would modify its trajectory and its patterns, and that has to do with people who are in the middle of globalizing phenomena. They can shape what's going on by their ethical commitments and their faith-based orientations.
So would you encourage those who are involved in the world of business everywhere in the world who feel as if they do not have choices to make when it comes to ethical issues in economics, that there is indeed a Christian mandate, and a mandate for Christianity is to go beyond that?
I don't believe that when they say there are no choices to make. There are always choices, and they may be within narrow confines in some settings, but there are always choices, and you can always say no and start an alternative.
Great. There you have it, the voice of Dr. Max Stackhouse. Thank you for joining us.